大家好. Hello, everybody. My name is Shaz, and I want to welcome you to tonight's webinar from the Mandarin Teachers Institute. And tonight we're going to be exploring project-based learning in the Chinese classroom. And my email is just down there. So if you ever want to contact me, if you have any suggestions about workshops or webinars that you would like to see, or if you have suggestions or questions, you can use the email below. It's gigglepots123@gmail.com. So let's get started. My name is Shaz, Li Sharo. My friends gave that name to me when I was in Taiwan, but my Australian name is Shaz. I'm from Australia. I have studied in many universities and colleges, in Nanjing Normal University, Nanjing Shifan Daxue, and also Taiwan University, Beijing Normal University. And I started off my Chinese learning at Adelaide University in South Australia, and also the University of South Australia. So I've been teaching for many, many years. I started teaching Chinese in 1980. And I've taught in different countries. I taught in Taiwan, I taught in Australia, and also in the US. So I've done a lot of teaching of Chinese for a very long time. And I've gone through different phases of the way I teach. And we'll go into that in just a minute. As well as being a Chinese teacher, I'm also a technology coordinator. So I really enjoy using technology in the classroom. I've been a stop motion animator, a trainer for kids, and I also collaborated with Sesame Street as a consultant when they were launching their new product called Fun Fun Elmo, and that's teaching kids Chinese. I'm also a founder of 3 websites. First of all, Creative Chinese. That was the earliest website, 2009, when I came to America, the US. I decided to put all my resources that I created for Chinese teachers up on a website, and that is Creative Chinese, and that's been going for a long time. And also when I came to Queens in New York, I started a music and Mandarin program for kids called Mandarin Superstars. And then now just recently, I decided I want to get together teachers globally, teachers of Chinese, no matter what country they're in. And I want to bring them together to support them and mentor them to be the best language teachers they can be. So I've just launched Mandarin Teachers Institute, and we'll be having webinars and support sessions starting in March 2025. I've been a consultant also for Chinese programs. So I was one of the first teachers in Australia to teach Chinese in schools. So I've also helped other schools get started or to develop their Mandarin programs. Places like Shanghai, Dulwich College in Shanghai, also in Hong Kong, the US, Indonesia, Scotland, England, Ireland. I've done workshops for Confucius Institute. So I've been doing webinars and training sessions for teachers of Chinese for a long time. So really, my mission in life is to create a new breed of Chinese language teachers. I remember when I first started teaching Chinese, I didn't use any textbooks. I was the only person in the town where I lived who were teaching another language. And so it's kind of a fairly isolated experience. So over the years, I've developed a whole lot of ideas of how we can support each other. And so I'm really looking to encourage teachers of Chinese to be creative, to inquire about modern pedagogy and how we can really fire up our students to love learning the Chinese language and Chinese culture. So that's the sort of motivation I have for starting Mandarin Teachers Institute. And usually when you attend a webinar or you go to a conference, there's a lot of theory, all right? And theory is very important. It's really important to know why you are doing a particular practice in the classroom. But in these webinars, because there's such a short time, so it's like an hour and a half on the webinar. So we're going to focus on practice more than theory. We will get into a bit of practice and why we do a particular way, but it's really going to be looking at practical applications. So I know teachers' time, you don't have a lot of time. So we really want to look at how you can take the theory and then how we can put it into practice in the classroom. So I'm going to give you lots of examples of how you can use, for example, tonight, PBL in the classroom. The biggest thing I find when I'm training teachers or I'm trying to encourage them to think differently is the idea that we've always done it that way. And I have done observations in teachers' classrooms. The head of school has asked me to observe teachers, give them feedback. And it's usually, this is the way we've always done it, right? We teach the whole class together. We assess the students all the same way. We use the same strategies. Every lesson, we do the same strategies of teaching. And we always assess the students at the end of a unit, all right? So that's the kind of the traditional way that any language teacher develops as they teach. But I want to look at something that Steve Jobs said. And he said, we're here to put a dent in the universe. Otherwise, why else even be here? This is the whole heart of PBL, project-based learning. It's looking at how even kids in a classroom, how they can make a change, how they can have an impact on people outside of their classroom. So it's bringing the community into the classroom. And we'll look at ways that you can do that. But as we continue tonight, continue thinking about what Steve Jobs said, right? It's all about having an impact and looking at real world problems that students can solve using the Chinese language. Now, a lot of people have different ideas about what PBL is. I'd be interested to know what you think when I say PBL. What do you think of? Some people think of rotating stations. Some people think of inquiry, getting the kids to ask questions. So there's lots of ideas, and people very often they get mixed up. They think that PBL is projects. And as teachers, I guess we've all done projects. But the thing that the PBL, project-based learning, the way it stands out is different, is that it answers a driving question. So I don't know about you, but in the classroom, I very rarely, in the beginning of my career, I very rarely asked students questions, right? I would go in and say, today we're going to be learning about clothes, maybe describing the color of the clothes. So it was very teacher driven and there was no question, there was no curiosity that I had at the beginning of a lesson. It was just go in, teach the content, and then assess the content. And still, that's where many teachers teach. So the difference between projects, which is a traditional way of teaching, and a PBL unit is a driving question. It has to be a question, right, that drives the whole learning. The second difference is that it has to be an authentic product. So students will use the language to create or produce a product. And that product could be a song, a video, a poster. It could be a guide. It could be a solution to a problem. It has to be authentic, right? So doing a worksheet is not an authentic product, okay? So it has to be like a real world product, and we'll look at some examples. The product then is shared with a public audience, and I think this is one of the biggest differences to traditional teaching and PBL, is that usually when you're in your classroom, you have your students, and whatever the students produce, whether they produce a role play or posters or books or whatever they produce to demonstrate their learning, it usually stays within the walls of the classroom, okay? But in PBL, it's a public audience. So as a teacher, you need to decide who is going to be the audience for the products that your students choose. So it could be another classroom in your school. It could be a community organization, Chinese speaking community organization, like a senior daycare where Chinese seniors go. Or it could be a global audience online. So those are the three main areas we're going to look at tonight. There's lots of other different areas for PBL, but we're going to be looking at the question, we're going to be looking at the product, and then we're going to be looking at the public audience that gets to see what the product is. So as I just said before, many teachers do projects, okay? So you're doing a cultural unit about China, you get the kids to make a poster about China, all the things they know about China, the food, the weather. This is a project, right? It stays within the classroom. Kids may do research, which is good. They might make a model of the Great Wall. It's still a project and it still stays within the classroom and the teacher assesses it. So the teacher is the audience. The PBL is very different, as I said before, and we'll look at some examples in just a minute. So projects also are generally given by the teacher after the content is learned. So generally you would start off with vocab, with sentence structures, and then you will do a project like show me, demonstrate what you know by doing this task. It's basically task-based learning. And here's an example. For example, if you're doing a food unit, right? Students will learn the vocab. They'll learn 蛋糕, 面条, 米饭. They'll learn all the words for the food. And then the task you give them is to create a menu in Chinese. And then maybe they'll do a role play in the classroom with the menu, like 我喜欢,我不喜欢. So they'll use the menu to do a role play. And then the teacher will assess it, or you might have peer assessment as well. So this is a project. This is a project, it's not PBL. If you wanted to make it into a PBL, you would need to have a question, right? So right now it's just a task. This is what you need to do. You need to create a Chinese menu, right? Or a menu for a Chinese restaurant. They're going to produce an authentic product. So an authentic product is something, a menu could be it, but then it doesn't have a public audience. So you'd need to try and decide who is going to benefit from this product that we're making outside of the classroom. So, for example, if you're doing it the traditional way, you would say make a classroom menu or restaurant menu. PBL, you would say, how can we teach the kindergarten class about healthy eating?